Looking for amazing finds and incredible deals? Visit Erie City Mission Thrift today. From stylish clothes and shoes to quality furniture and home goods, you'll discover something new each time while changing lives right here in Erie. It's shopping that feels good and does good. Come see us in Erie and Girard. Erie City Mission Thrift. Thrift with a purpose.
All year round, Frontier Home Products and Design has what you need to make your home comfortable and beautiful. Relax on a new timber tech deck designed by Frontier's experts. A new fireplace from Frontier Home Products Fireplace Gallery adds warmth and serenity to any home. Beauty and versatility at Frontier Home Products and Design Center, 4213 Peachtree, East 5th, next to the Bayfront Highway.
Frontier Home Products and Design Center. Discover a new frontier.
PA contractor number PA 039007.
Welcome to TalkErie.com's Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast. Every day, we tackle the biggest issues that the Erie, PA region faces. Stay informed and involved as we advance the narrative of Erie. Now, here's Joel Natale.
We're having the crucial conversations that Erie needs. And in November, the folks in Millcreek, the voters in Millcreek Township, voted for a new form of government. It was a significantly talked about issue. Again, you could say a lot of controversy, but it was voted up. And to talk more about this is Art Oligeri. He was a vice president of the Study Commission and involved in the transition. Art, I'm glad you're here with us. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
You got it here. All right, let's remind folks again kind of the beginning of the Study Commission. Basically, they had to vote to even do the Study Commission, didn't they?
Yes, they did. There had to be a vote that had to be on the ballot to have a Study Commission and then to elect people to the Study Commission. Had there not passed, the election would have been null and void. No one would have been on the commission. But it actually started about a year and a half prior to the election. There was some controversies in Millcreek, and there are people that got involved because they wanted to make a difference. And as they say about politics, it's all local.
Yeah.
This is where you live and work and play. And people really became very interested in it. And the more they talked about it, the more the interest was gained.
Okay. And so there was a trigger of how things were being decided, and it ended up being very consequential because first off, in the primary in 2025. Dan Oligeri lost that primary to Harry Morgan. So again, Dan Oligeri was one of the advocates for the Gateway Project,
Correct.
For example. You think that was like the major trigger?
I think that was a major trigger. There were a lot of people that were really unhappy about it, and that goes beyond just a common everyday decision. That was something big and amounted to millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. And that's a perfect word for it. It was a trigger that got people involved. But prior to that, there was a large group of concerned Millcreek citizens about Millcreek government. There were other things that were happening behind the scenes, but that was a trigger. You hit it right on the button. That was a trigger that really got people involved, and that was when the talk started about changing the form of the government. We know in our democratic society, you can always replace the people that you have elected. That's what's great about a democracy. But sometimes things happen because of the form of government and the weakness in the government. And people recognize that. And that really, really was the trigger.
So they voted to have this commission. They voted people on the commission. You were voted in.
Correct.
Along with several others folks. And again, we talked to, Paul Wojtek.
Yes.
He was the chair, right? And, Jim Dedad is the treasurer. And when you started doing the, quote, study, you found that Well, tell us what you found. Yeah.
Once we started study, even though there were a lot of people that accused us of not doing a study, the more we got into it, the more of a Pandora's box we ran into. We ran into some accounting irregularities. We ran into a lot of things that happened that some people kind of knew about, but it was behind the scenes. Sometimes people are too busy with their life. They're working, they have kids to raise, and they hear the news, but it doesn't always sink in. But we ran across some particularly financial matters that were very, very troubling. And the more we dug, the more we found. The more we found, the more we dug. And this is really that got the ball rolling on that when we found all of these things were happening. And consequently, that was perhaps one of the reasons why Dan Ouellette was not reelected. It was the voters sending a message to our political leaders that we are unhappy with what you're doing. And it wasn't by a little bit. I mean, he really lost by a lot. Yeah. It was a kind of a referendum on that particular administration. He was the only supervisor that was up at that particular election.
So he was out in the primary. Of course, the outcome of the November election was that, first off, I should say, at what point did you present the proposed form of government? When did that come out?
There's a timeline. You have to have a timeline.
Okay.
And there's a lot of things that had to happen. And as it turned out, in direct answer to your question, we came out in May. We started in December.
May. Okay.
May is when we came out with the with our final decision. And it was unanimous. And, we talked about this many, many times. We put 7 people together that really didn't know each other, all different careers, different socioeconomic groups, different backgrounds. And surprisingly, number one, we all got along. We're doing a lot of work for free. We all got along. I'd like to think we were all intelligent. We certainly were enthusiastic. And we came to a unanimous decision. And it just happened. I mean, and there were 4 different choices that we could have chosen, and we chose the council manager form of government. And it was just amazing that all of us, all different backgrounds, came up with the same answer. And we had decided that in May, and it was at one of the 2 meetings in May that we had decided we're going to go with the council manager form of government. We decided that, but of course, only the voters can change the form of government, which they did.
Respond to the pushback that I heard that this was just kind of the path of least resistance for your consultants. What do you say? You've heard that before, right?
Yeah, it's just like they said, well, they really didn't do a study.
Yeah.
I'd like to show people the amount of folders that I had for all the studying we did. No, they guided us. They did a fantastic job of guiding us, but we made the decisions. Yeah. They didn't tell us what to do. They put the facts out on the table. We studied them. We interviewed people, and we had three different committees within our committee, and it was not the path of least resistance. That's what they presented it. We made the decision. No one told us what to do. And we talked among ourselves, but it's not like we tried to convince each other. We're trying to make the decision on our own. What do you think is best? And it just so happened that 7 people all came up with the same solution.
Yeah. It's interesting. So obviously what the commission decided was received well by the voters, because this thing won in November by a pretty large margin.
56-44.
Wow.
One of the things that we found out, I had mentioned earlier, a lot of times people are busy with their life. They have kids, they have a job, they're working 60 hours a week, and they hear the news, but they don't have to get involved. But when you're going, particularly when we were going around getting signatures and we're talking to our neighbors, there was a lot of negative feelings on what was happening in Millcreek government, and particularly the gateway properties. And once we uncovered that, people started talking about that. Maybe this is a good thing. And many times we had said it's not only a referendum on the political leaders, but it is also showing that a certain type of government, if there's a weakness in the government, that allows some things to happen. And that was really that was a really important point. So that was one of the things that we were looking at when we were perusing the different forms of government. How strong is the government?
Yeah.
And so it's not just about the leaders. It is about the form of government that allows things to happen.
Was that alarming to you that, that all the big townships across the Commonwealth were different than Millcreek?
As you well know, we talked about earlier, I was always focused on the county. I ran for county executive.
Yeah.
So my focus was always on the county, not necessarily Millcreek Township, despite the fact that I've lived here for 40 years. I operated a business here for 20 plus years. I didn't pay as much attention to Millcreek Township as I did Erie County. Mm-hmm. And when this came up, though, I was in a position that I could be active on it, and that's why I chose to do that. And as I said, the more we dug, the more disturbing things we found, particularly financial. Mm-hmm. And when we were out, I was beginning to tell you about this. That when we were out getting signatures, we had to get 300 signatures, I think. So you're talking about 300 of your neighbors. And there was a lot of people that didn't have time to get involved, but were extremely upset what was happening. And I remember quotes like, "There's always a better way of doing things."
Interesting.
Some people, particular, for lack of a better word, older people, sometimes older people don't like change, but that wasn't the case. There was enough pushback on things that were happening that people were welcoming change, and they were really paying attention. And as time went on during 2025, the momentum built, and more people really got involved, and it really was nonpartisan. Mm-hmm. We had Democrats on our commission, we had Republicans, I think we had one independent. And we don't even know, don't necessarily know who was who, but it was not a partisan issue. Some people tried to make it a partisan issue, but it wasn't. It was about government.
Interesting. The concept of the mayor, the council, there's a Freudian slip. The manager council. Right,
yeah, manager council,
right? Well, I mean, okay. Well, hey, let's go with the Freudian slip here a second, because that was one of the opponents to the commission.
Yes.
Was advocating. Well, yeah, let's change from the three supervisors to an actual elected mayor. And what I had heard from you guys is that it seemed too political, like it was going to be a politically charged thing. And you, with your experience with running for county executive, I mean, that's really the scenario that is, right? It's adversarial.
Right. And what it is with a manager, you're separating politics from that position. When you have a mayor, politics is part of it. Right. And that was a key point. And all of us seem to recognize that. And there are issues, there's issues when you have politics involved. And maybe this is why we like that form of government the best, because it isolates the professional manager from politics. In politics, you get rid of your leaders, and, well, in this case, it was 6 years, which I always thought that was too long. The professional manager can be gone tomorrow. If he does, it's just like working, in a business. If you do something that's wrong or egregious, you could be out of a job tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that was, and it's all based on performance. You can have, at every level of government, we've elected bad people. It just happens in a democracy. And you're stuck with them for 2 years, 4 years, or 6 years. With a professional manager, you're not. I mean, he could be terminated on the spot.
Mm. I want to get to the timeline, but is the commission still intact during this transition, or?
No, it's not.
Okay,
we officially ended on Election Day.
We
were disbanded on Election Day.
Okay.
We're still involved.
Right.
We're still working.
Well, we need to talk about that, but I want to go talk about the manager, because I want to, from your study, from your report. With all due respect, this sounds like we're looking for Superman. Are we?
No.
All right.
Think of it. Think of the ABC company. You think of any Fortune 500 company. You have a board of directors. They hire a CEO. Okay, the CEO is not elected. He's hired by the board.
Oh, yeah.
And he's hired to do a job. He's there to make money for the company. And as long as he does a good job, he's going to stay in that job as long as the directors still like what he's doing, the board of directors. At some point, they may decide we're going to part ways. We're clashing on our views, so we're going to get rid of you like tomorrow. You're done.
Yeah.
And we'll hire someone else. And that's the way this is going to work. You can't do that with a mayor. You're stuck with them for 4 years.
Do you feel like it's going to be up to the board to be much more articulate about what the goals of the township are? Again, it's not a perfect analogy, of a nonprofit or even a for-profit and a government deal, because those board members are all elected and they all have their agendas, don't they?
Yes, they do. They do, but that's the way life is in America.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of having 5, and we learned this in our study, is when you only have 3, you run into a 2 versus 1. And 2 people can chart a course, bad or good. When you have 5 people, you need 3 people, 3 of those to make things happen. But what you're going to get, and what we have here in our present situation, and I guess I didn't realize until I got involved in it, these the board of directors or the supervisors not only are the executives, they're the legislative branch too. And nowhere do you have one group functioning as an executive branch and the legislative branch. It's just wrong. There's no checks and balances.
You're talking about in a current 3 supervisor system.
Right. And what they do is then they hire themselves to run the township, so to speak. No one else does that. No one else does it. And despite some of the remarks that we had while we're going backwards, they just didn't know what they were talking about. Everybody of any kind of size of population has moved to this form of government. Now, the smaller townships where you have 1,000 people, it's something else. But anything over 2,500, I think was at the threshold. 75% of the municipalities in the United States, 75% use this form of government. And people are saying you're going backwards. Are 75% of the cities wrong? The townships wrong?
Yeah. Interesting. So what would be the qualifications we're looking for in a manager? Do you
one
think?
of the things that we found and we interviewed several of them, and we tried to stick with the ones that were in that 40 to 50,000.
Kind of very similar to
we call them like-sized townships. One of the things, the common denominator was they all had an MBA or an MPA.
Okay.
They all had MBAs, MPAs, and municipal experience. Too often, at every level of government, we've elected people that aren't qualified to meet the job description. Here, this is one of the advantages of that. We can, if they don't have the education or the experience credentials, the board won't hire them. It's just as simple as that. But that's key, MPA, MBA. And we had a chance to go one-on-one talking to these administrators, and they were pretty sharp. You could tell that they were experienced. I can think of a couple of them, like in Millcreek, we had a hard time running a golf course. Actually, it was a beautiful golf course. It was designed by one of the master designers of the 1920s, and we couldn't make money on it. The one that we looked at downstate, had no problems making money, and there was nothing special about it. They just knew how to operate. Was it their education? Was it their experience? They knew how to operate a golf course and make money on it. And we had to sell ours. It just killed me. I'm not a good golfer, but it just killed me that we sold that to someone from out of town. But the bottom line is, we're looking with someone with an advanced degree, someone that has some experience, probably at a smaller township, maybe another township, maybe with 20,000 people,
Right.
They're ready to move up. And the way we, as we looked at it, we have 3 supervisors that are paying roughly $90,000 a year, 270 plus bennies. You're replacing only the executive level. The rest stays the same. So you can possibly use 2 people to replace 3 people and give each of those a little more money and still break even. We were not trying to save money at the executive level. We want better operations at the executive level. If it's a wash, it's a wash. That's all that we were looking for. But you have a chance to get someone that does have an MPA, does have an MBA, does have experience, and does a better job running the township, making better, informed financial decisions. And that's the key, having a qualified person there. And if something happens that they're not qualified, you get rid of them. It's just as simple as that. In my business, I didn't always hire perfect people, and sometimes you have to make a change, not because you want to, but because you have to. But the people that we talked to, the professional managers that we talked to were pretty smart. They knew their stuff. And I just use the golf course as
right, yeah.
That's a perfect.
Well, I was going to say, do you think that, and I got like a minute before the break, do you think that Millcreek should find somebody that has a particular knowledge base with infrastructure? When you consider that the nagging problem in Millcreek has been this stormwater issue, I mean, to me, that's been the one thing that is just an unsolvable issue, supposedly, anyway.
No, it's not unsolvable. They can do it. If you get someone that has worked, let's say you're looking at someone from a township downstate, maybe in Ohio, or maybe, and they've been running a township with 30,000 people. They have an MPA, they have an MBA, they have education, they have experience at a slightly lower level. This is what you're going to look for, and they'll be able to solve that problem. It's not unsolvable. It's just that our people couldn't solve it, and that is a big problem, and it's been a big problem for a long time. And I haven't been involved. I don't know all the particulars about that, but it's still a problem. But if you get the right person in there, they will solve that problem. But you need to hire the right person. You might get someone else that just wants to moves into the area and is well credentialed. When having hired many people in my business, from full time to part time to managers, sometimes when you're looking for someone, you don't know what you're going to get. You look at it and you bring candidates in, and you're looking for a candidate A, and someone else comes in and they've got it, and you hire them.
From baggage claim to pajamas in 10 minutes. Erie International Airport. Fly with ERI.com.
Fly Erie International Airport to Charlotte on American Airlines, your nonstop gateway to the world. Also, we have Breeze Airways flying nonstop to Orlando and Tampa, Florida. A great low-cost carrier providing excellent service to the regional community. Fly Erie International for your travel needs.
Fly with ERI.com.
Get paid to drive. Start a new career behind the wheel at the EMTA. If you are looking for a high-paying and rewarding career with full benefits and paid training, stop by or apply online today with the EMTA. Plus, EMTA riders can now enjoy free Wi-Fi on new, clean, and environmentally friendly buses to travel all over Erie County. Visit ridethee.com for more information.
Get on board EMTA. Get on board EMTA.
Quickfill gasoline is made right here in America. United Refining Company, who operates Quickfill, refines its gasoline from North American crude oil in Warren, Pennsylvania. When you buy United Refining Company gasoline at Quickfill, you keep jobs and businesses in America, and you keep American families strong. You don't need to send your money overseas when you buy gasoline. Buy American-made gasoline at Quickfill. Quickfill, driving America.
Art, again, it's fascinating. I mean, this is big stuff. What do you think about, I mean, we're both old enough to remember when the county went from commissioners to home rule.
78.
That was a big deal.
It was.
And around the same time, because the legislature in Harrisburg had changed the rules, they were offering home rule for cities. The city voted it down. The county voted it in, and we got Russell Robinson was the original county executive, right?
Yep, Robbie Robinson.
Robbie Robinson, yes. And I think Fiore Leon went on on that original council, right?
Yeah. He stayed on there for
until the 2000
right.
The late 2000 teens.
He was a fixture.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. So let's talk about this timeline, because again, it is an earthquake to change government here. Right now, we have 3 full-time supervisors. They are Kim Clear and Jim Bach and Kylie Morris, right? Dr. Morris. What is their status right now?
Their positions will remain until January 1st, 2028.
Oh, wow.
That's
a while.
We have 2 years, yes. And then what will happen, that position will no longer be a full-time position, and the person elected will not be an employee of Millcreek Township.
Okay.
There will be the advisory board, the board of supervisors, and that happens on January 1st, 2028.
So in 2027, when we have the next round of supervisor, we won't be electing just one. We'll be electing what, 4?
3.
Okay.
And remember, in Pennsylvania, municipal elections are only held in odd years.
Right.
So that's why it's going to take that long. We have to have an election in 2027 to get up to speed.
Okay.
So instead of electing just one to replace, because Kim Clear's term will be expiring.
It'll be Kim's.
We'll have one for that position plus the 2 additional ones to bring the total number of board of supervisors to 5.
So Mr. Bach and Dr. Morris will end up kind of transitioning. They'll stay on the board, but they'll become a part of this council.
Correct. Right. They'll join whoever wins the Kim Clear race.
Yeah.
And then the 2 new people that will be
people.
elected in 2027.
Okay. When you were at the commission, there was a conversation about whether you wanted a little bit of home rule of maybe having districts within the township. What was the conversation like about that?
There was and that's a major point. Do you elect by district or do you do it at large? And despite the fact people thought we didn't really study, everybody that we studied said at large by far, without a doubt.
Okay.
It was unanimous. Every single person, every single municipality that we talked about is you do it at large. And the main reason is you need to think of Millcreek Township as a whole.
Okay.
You have to be thinking what's good for Millcreek Township, not what's good for my district, or I want this for my district. I want to do that. He wants to do this because it's his district. And it was unanimous. Everyone we talked to said you don't want that. Now, we did not have a unanimous vote on that because there was one person that voted for the districts. And I can see both sides of the story.
Yeah.
State government is like that, federal government is like that. But we have 50,000 people in Millcreek, Millcreek Township. And I like the idea of thinking of it as a whole. So you're not only thinking about, I live by J.S. Wilson School. I'm not just thinking about that. I'm thinking about Bell Valley. I'm thinking about what's good for the whole township. And that's how we solved that. And that's why it was 6-1 to go with at large.
Yeah, I could see that point, but there is the issue that we have history here, right? And so, some folks that live in Bell Valley feel like they're kind of the awkward stepchild of Northwest Millcreek, of the lakefront, right? I mean, right. So it's going to be behooving, just like the supervisors now. The supervisors in the future will have to be thinking, like you say, about the whole shooting match.
You know what you can do, though? You could have 5 people all elected from Bell Valley.
You could.
It could happen.
There's
nothing prohibiting that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And if people are that concerned, they could flood the polls with people in 2027 to run and have them all from Bell Valley. And you could end up with electing 3 people from Bell Valley as opposed to only having 1 if you did it by a district.
Yeah, I want you to weigh in on this. Again, one of the criticisms about city council is that it's dominated by the 5th and 6th Ward. You've heard that too, right?
Of course.
Because it's hard for somebody on the 1st Ward or the 3rd Ward. I mean, I grew up in the 3rd Ward, Little Italy, right? I mean, I can't remember a city councilman from there in a long time, right?
Yeah, it's definitely worthy of discussion. But we went through it, and it was what the majority wanted, and it's consistent with what other people are doing. And when you look at it and you hear people that have been on, most of these townships had switched from our status quo to a manager-council form of government in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s.
Wow.
We're about 4 decades behind.
That's par for the course, Art.
When you listen to them and they have reasons, well, we did this because of that, this works because of that, you feel a little more confident in doing it because they're doing it successfully. If they can do it successfully, like run a golf course, we can too.
Yeah. A lot of folks vote for their politicians if they're going to create jobs and opportunity and so on, better schools, better environment, better parks and whatever. Do you feel that the outcomes will, other than being maybe, let's just say, more competent, do you think outcomes will follow? I mean, Millcreek's one of those places that people aspire to.
Yes. Yes, it's a desirable township.
Yeah.
What I think and what we thought is we had a situation that sometimes in politics you can't get the best people into good positions because they don't want to take a cut in pay. They're making a big money in their own right, in their own job, and they're not going to quit that job to go into politics. Under this scenario, you can get very involved in politics and keep your job. You don't have to, you could be an accountant, you can be a lawyer, you can be a priest, you can be a doctor, you can be a very successful businessman. Now, ideally, we want these successful people seated on the board of supervisors, people that have legal expertise, people that have good business sense to make good business decisions, informed decisions, accountants, a doctor, and hopefully we'll be able to attract these people. They're not going to do it, it doesn't matter whether you pay them $5,000 or $6,000 a year, they're not doing it for the money. Always use the comparison, it's like, volunteering to be on your parish council.
Yeah.
But you're going to attract a more diverse group with more ability, more education to select someone not only to run the township, but also to make good decisions. There is be a more diverse group, more intelligent group, so that we do have good decisions being made.
Let's talk about this manager. Okay, so if the council is being elected in November of 2027, when do you think the manager would come online?
Well,
what's
that
the plan?
Would be the first thing that we want the new people coming on.
Okay, so it would be their decision. Okay.
So, and sometimes it's hard to hire someone on the spot, and so what would ideally, if I was in charge of it, we would be soliciting applications, in the 4th quarter of 26, and we'd have them. But that group
of 27, you mean, right?
Oh, of 27. Yeah, I'm sorry, 27.
Yeah.
4th quarter of 27. And you would have these people that have already applied for that. And then on January 1st is when the decision would start being made. You can conduct interviews. But that we want the new people, the 5 people, they have to own that. They have to own that decision. But you need to start it ahead of time. And ideally, I'm thinking, 4th quarter. Because
maybe by June of 2028, you have your manager on tap.
We have to have. It has to be before that.
Okay,
it has to be before that.
Yeah.
That's why you can. That's why you would start in the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
You would want that process to last no more than 30 days.
Wow, that's fast.
It is, but you can do it.
Okay.
Having hired many people,
you
can do it.
Put a set of headphones on. I think someone wants to ask a question here. Alrighty. just flip it over. Yeah, they'll just fit right on there. There you go.
Like that?
All right, there you go. Yeah. Hi, you're live with Art Oligeri here. We're talking about Millcreek. Go ahead.
Oh, hey, Joel. Hey, I didn't really have nothing on Millcreek. I just had two real quick things I wanted to say from earlier.
Okay, I'm gonna have you call back in the 5 o'clock. Thanks so much, buddy. Bye bye.
All right.
Sorry about that. So so basically, quick turnaround. We get these 5 councilmen, council persons hired or voted in. They hire the manager. What kind of support staff do you think is going to need to be raised up?
Keep in mind, the only thing we're changing are the executives. We're only replacing the CEO, okay? You're hiring a CEO. And this is where having experienced supervisors on board that have done this. You know, my people I've hired in my career.
Yeah.
I'll find someone within 30 days. We'll get someone by January 30th. That would be the timeline I would want to have. But when you get people that have experience, my experience happens to be hiring people. I did it.
Mm-hmm.
As a small businessman, you're an HR person too, and we might on that board of supervisors, you might have a legal person, you might have a lawyer, you might have someone else that can facilitate that process. It can be done. We're not going to wait 6 months to have it done, but you need to have the people you need the resumes in hand so you can review them quickly and have a decision. You want to hire someone by February 1st.
Where do you think, what kind of other staff do you think would have to be hired under this manager?
I said this many times throughout the campaign.
Yeah.
You're only replacing the executives. So let's say we have 3 executives now. We hire a manager. That's one. I'm finding it hard to believe. I think we're going to need an assistant, okay?
Sure.
So you're going to have 2 replacing 3. So money-wise, we're still okay. Everything else is in place.
But I mean, just so I understand, isn't one of the supervisors the roadmaster? Wouldn't you need a head of public works, or no?
Your department heads are going to stay the same.
So we already have those department heads.
Yeah, that doesn't change. None of that changes.
Okay.
So you're going to keep virtually the entire. The employees aren't going to change. We're only changing the president.
Yeah, the police chief stays the same.
Now,
fire chief.
When someone gets in there, when a professional manager gets in there, he may want to make some changes, but he doesn't have to. Right. Everything is running now. Everything is up and running. The only thing you're doing is you're bringing in a new CEO of your company.
Okay, but here's the difference. Is that CEO have hiring and firing capabilities? Or does that have to go to the board?
It would have to be approved by the, that's something that they would have to set up.
Because right now our 3 board members hire and fire the chief and the fire chief and the public works guys and so on, right?
You ever work by management by committee?
Oh, believe me, it's tough. It is tough, right? Yeah.
So what would happen is you bring in this your new CEO, just like a company, a Fortune 500 company brings in a CEO. He does the hiring, the board approves it.
Yeah.
But
something tells me that that Tim DeCastro has a lot of power. You know what I mean, as the president and CEO.
Yes. Yes.
But maybe his VPs would have to get a nod to the chairman, right? To the board.
What might happen, and we saw this in some of the townships that we interviewed, they would take one of your department heads and make them the assistant manager, pay him a little bit more money. But particularly when you're in a new situation, they shouldn't touch anything below the executive level. Let the executive come in, okay? Let him get his feet wet. Let's get to know one another. Let's let the board get to know the manager get to know the board. And if there's there's always changes in companies.
Sure.
The only thing constant is change. But the whole idea is to get them in there. Let's get it operating. Let's get this off the ground. So you don't need peripheral people at that point. They're already there. You have, and I forgot whether it's 6 or 8 or 9 department heads. Yeah. They're already in place. Mm-hmm. You don't need to hire anybody else. You can conceivably. And once again, because I have experience running a business, my idea would be to let's just go for 6 months and see how one person does it. Let's see how we can do it. Let's not spend money unnecessarily. But don't be surprised if you need to add one person. And we could afford to do that.
Right.
Because we're having only one person replace 3. We still have money if we want to put in an assistant or make one of the department heads. A lot of the people that we talked to had department heads that became the assistant manager.
Let's try one more phone call, Art, if you want to grab those headsets again. We're talking Millcreek here on Talk Erie. Go ahead, caller.
Hey, Art, I voted against the change of government, and this is the reason why, and hopefully maybe you can kind of clear some of this stuff up to us.
Go ahead.
Looking at the law for the change, right? None of the elected or this kind of part-time council is allowed legally to interact or speak with any of the department heads, meaning the fire chief, meaning the police chief. Everything has to go then through the hired kind of new CEO.
Right.
And from an accountability standpoint, if I have a problem with my sewer, if I have a problem with my street light, going to that, whoever is, I guess, in charge of that, and then going to the CEO or the new executive, then going to that person. Now, they can ask for reports, and they can get reports, but having direct contact, legally, they're not allowed.
Correct. That is right.
That I voted against.
That's not their job. Let's say if let's say if you have IBM stock and you're unhappy with the way things are going, you go through the proper channels, and you would you go through operations to get what you need to accomplish. You don't go through the board of directors. They're separated from.
And I understand that, but the system we have now, I know exactly who's accountable. I can go talk to that person right now, whether I pick up the phone. Now there's really not that accountability that citizens have.
One of the disadvantages, we talked about that, is some Millcreek residents choose a supervisor. They go to supervisor number 1. They don't get the answer they want. Then they go to supervisor number 2, and they still don't get the answer they have. I'll try supervisor 3. I'm going to keep trying supervisors until I find one that gives me the answer that I want. There was no clear chain of command. Companies don't run. You don't see many companies run on management by committee. If you've ever worked on that, it's not a great way to run a company or a township, just for that reason. There's a chain of command. You need a particular department. You go to that department and you try to accomplish what you need to accomplish. There is no need to contact anybody on the board of directors. That would just go through operations. You have an operating question, it would go through operations.
I appreciate the phone call. Thanks so much. Thanks for weighing in.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, so I want you to leave us with, some direction to township citizens. What are we looking at here? Because kind of this next, what are we talking here? 20 months are in transition, right?
Right. We are in transition now. Okay. These are the guidelines that we need. Number 1, they need, because it's not we have disbanded.
Yeah.
The government needs to establish a strong transition committee.
Okay.
The recommendation, and it's a good recommendation, is 4-2-1. The commissioners that just spent over a year working on this, they're the most knowledgeable on the government right now. And 6 of the 7 have already volunteered to be on that committee. The 4-2-1 means 4, and this is what the state agencies recommend. 4 would come from the commission. 2 would be at large, so you have a diverse.
Some new blood.
Some new blood, right?
Yeah.
And then 1 would be a sitting supervisor. And we thought that sitting supervisor would be the one that carries forward with the most experience, and that would be Jim Bach.
Yeah.
And so that should be like an automatic buy. Whether they do that, we don't know. We don't have the authority to do that. The other thing is we need people on that committee that supported the change. not people that resisted it. That's really important because there's some really strong feelings.
Sure.
Just like the gentleman that called, he had his reasons not to support it, and he did not do it. So we want people that supported it.
Because the voters voted for it. Now we've got to make it the best it can be.
Right. We need team players. You know, the 7 of us that were on the commission, we were all team players. We listened, we talked, we listened. You need team players. You need people that are enthusiastic, and we were all enthusiastic. You need a certain amount of intelligence. I mean, there's a lot of material to go through, and you have to be willing to work for free.
Well, that's the zinger at the end, isn't it? Wow.
So then when you have that, that's the most important thing, a strong transition committee. You need to establish a timeline. We worked on that timeline. You gotta follow it. It's not something you just draw up and write down. You gotta follow it. You have to have a timeline and a plan, and you gotta stick to it. And everybody has to buy into it. You need to have some, even though that's a committee. You need subcommittees because there's a lot of work to do. We had 3 subcommittees, and we each one of those committees, 3 subcommittees out of the 7 people. There's a lot to do, so you need to establish committees and decide what they're going to be in charge of. You got to be organized.
Sure.
You got to be organized. It has to be. There's a lot. 2 years looks like a long time, but it's not. It's going to go very, very fast. You need to get help. You're not going to have all the answers. You think you're going to have all the answers, but you're not. You're going to get help from 2 people. You're going to get help from the DCED. That's a state agency that will help. They will help. And you're going to get, you would use someone like we use, these public partners that have been doing it. This is what they do for a living. Right. They'll be able to say, if you're at a stumbling block, they'll be able to say, in this situation, this is a wiser move. You're going to make the decision, but you're going to look to them for guidance.
Art, we are out of time, but thank you so much. We're looking forward to tracking all of this. Absolutely here. Again, Art Oligeri was the vice president on the Millcreek Government Study Commission. A whole lot of work to be done here, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You got it.
You've been listening to The Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast from TalkErie.com. Subscribe to our show on your favorite podcatcher and get involved by emailing joel@TalkErie.com.